And today I'm incredibly excited to welcome a truly inspiring guest, Mikhail.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mikhail is a mentor and educator, and as a former instructor of the CIS summer program Be Global, he has worked closely with students in Kazakhstan, helping them better understand the international academic landscape, build global perspectives, and believe in their own potential. So welcome, Mikhail.
Thank you very much. Like I said, very excited to be here.
Yeah. To start off, can you tell us a bit about your teaching experience? What inspires you the most in your students?
I very much like to see ambition in my students. I think it's very important. There's an obvious link. Students who show ambition at a young age tend to advance further than those who show indifference. So I like to see ambition. I like to see some drive. Students that go home, for example, and do some independent reading in their free time, those ones also go far. So yeah, ambition and drive. As with all things in life, that's what you want to see.
And as I know, you have led summer courses
Yes,
and
indeed.
educational programs. So what drives you to teach other students?
I think it's very important, especially in my subject, which is international relations. I think it's very important, especially in the current sort of political climate that we see ourselves now. It's very important to understand how the world functions and the strings that the world is pulled on. The strings that the world is essentially created on, is held on. It's very important to understand that. And the younger you are when you begin to sort of explore that dynamic, the further you'll go in life.
And what have you learned about young people through your teaching experience?
They're very different.
Maybe something interesting.
They're very different, I think. There's manifold stereotypes of young people. You see the classic sort of sports people that aren't very interested in your class. You have to adapt around them. You see the ones that you know are showing immense potential, even in a classroom full of 15, 16-year-olds. They discuss certain topics as if they were 18, 19, maybe even older university students. That's the main thing I think about young people, variety. Everybody's background and experiences shape them to a degree. And that's more obvious when they are young.
Well, so thank you for sharing your thoughts as an educator. So now what even more fascinating for me, I think, is that you are also students yourself at one of the world's most prestigious universities, London School of Economics.
Yeah.
So now can you tell us about your journey here? As far as I know, LSE is one of the best universities in international relations. In your opinion, what truly makes LSE to stand out in this field?
The faculty, I would say that the teachers, the professors, and even just the tutors make LSE stand out. I mean, you have a wide variety of Nobel Prize winning sort of professors, people who get quoted in everyday conversation, people who write books, people who are part of myriad societies worldwide. I'd say that's the most important fact about LSE. What makes LSE truly great is the student and the staff body, staff body.
Among all of your professors in the LSE, who left a lasting impression on you?
I had one professor in my second year. He was actually a PhD student. I'd like to shout out to Mr. Horn, Jeffrey Horn, if he's watching this somehow. He left a very lasting impression because he's very successful career-wise. Surviving with 3 children in London is a Herculean feat, frankly. But he finds time to impart his knowledge onto us, onto students. So he has 3 children. He has to work to provide for them, but he also finds time to, he's very busy, but he also finds time to teach us because he's truly passionate about the subject. And his passion, I think, is what leaves a very deep, lasting impression.
So LSE is known as, for being incredibly diverse. And as I know, there are a lot of students like from 140 countries. So I think that the environment is very international there. So what do you think, how people can connect with each other and communicate, like they have a very different backgrounds, but what helps them to connect with each other?
I think people largely connect around their ambitions and their dreams. If you have the same end goal, if you want to end up at the same place, you tend to start at the same place as well. You share at least some interests. you share some ideas, you share some common opinions, and that's what helps people connect to LSE. I want to be a lawyer, a politician, I want to be an economist. People who want to be the same thing in the future stick together throughout their whole time at university.
And do you have an experience of different challenges, like about the cultural factor between people?
I think London is such a sort of multicultural city that people tend to integrate very well, purely because there is a Vietnamese community in North London, there's a Bangladeshi community in East London, people are everywhere. So people integrate with each other mainly due to the fact that they are in London, not necessarily at LSE. So that's why people integrate.
So now let's talk about the pressure. As I know, LSE is known for being a highly competitive university. So was it hard to adjust to that intensity for you?
I think that LSE is a competitive university across all sort of modules and sectors and fields. The workload does vary though, from degree to degree. I'd say that on average, my finance counterparts are very much more engaged than I am, but the workload is very high, and the workload stresses individual commitment, individual organization, and an individual willingness to work. You will receive barely for per module something like 4 or 5 contact hours per week, and then everything else you have to do yourself. You have to have the organization to journey home and to set out a working plan to meet deadlines and work on a schedule. So that's it. If you're not disciplined yourself inherently, you will have quite a hard time at LSE.
And can I ask how you got used to such amount of work?
I think I had a very supportive friend group. For example, we used to work in the library together, but also one very useful strategy I believe that my friend employs, and he's gone on to be a lawyer now, so it's clearly worked for him. He treats university as a work day. So he comes into the library at 9 and he leaves at 5. So the university day is essentially transformed into a work day for him, and he has all the time in the world to do everything he needs to do.
That's really interesting. So how strong is the LSE alumni community?
I would say that the LSE alumni community is among maybe one of the strongest in Europe and in the UK, definitely. There's not as much of an emphasis as you see in the US on alumni donations, alumni professional networks. But in the UK, LSE has one of the strongest alumni networks, as LSE graduates are one of the most employable graduates in the UK and even globally, ranking above Oxbridge even.
So how LSE University support their graduates?
So there is a massive alumni network. So you can essentially go to LSE graduates, especially if they were on the same course as you were. And you can network, you can connect with them. Also professors. So for example, through the aforementioned Jeff Horn, I have met with many of his colleagues who do the kind of work that I envision doing myself in the future. So professor sort of connections, alumni networks, and while you are at LSE as well, there's a very proficient sort of career service that helps you tailor your CV, connects you to trial days, gives you interview practice, and everything on the spectrum.
So they have like special events for alumni?
Yes, special events organized by alumni, for alumni, and even for people currently enrolled in the university by sector.
Can you describe a moment at LSE that like truly changed your perspective on the world?
I think one of the happiest moments I've been at LSE is finishing my last exam in summer. There's a very sort of magical moment when the exam doors open and everyone floods out onto the street outside the exam hall, and everyone's talking, everyone's chattering. It's very live. There's a very tangible sense of joie de vivre. There's a very tangible sense. People are very excited to have finished LSE, essentially finished their exams. I think that changed my perspective on the world because everyone's together. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, a finance specialist, a historian, everyone in that one moment, everyone's united, and you really see your friends, and even the teachers come and they join in. I think that must be one of the happiest memories at LSE. That's also changed my perspective on a lot of things, because during the year you're very focused on your work. You sort of exist in a bubble of work, working towards the next deadline and the next deadline and the next deadline. You don't see the bigger picture. But once this all melts away after your summer exams, you see the bigger picture again. You see your friends. You know, some people go to the pub, some people go to the club, some people go home to their parents, right? So it's very interesting, and there's a strong sense of belonging after that.
Yeah, you can just take a breath.
Yes, exactly. You can just take a breath. You can
Finally
relax. Yes, exactly.
So now let's give a motivation for the students who want to study abroad in the future. Many students in Kazakhstan think that it is impossible or it is like a fairy to study abroad. So what would you say to those students who are insecure in their capabilities of studying abroad?
It's not a fairy tale. It's very possible. If you have the ambition and the drive, if you want to succeed, you will. I mean, I think people are very much capable of turning mountains and crossing oceans when they really desire to achieve something. And the most important factor in the story is that sort of UK universities are very willing facilitators of international students. For example, LSE, I believe, is 75% international, and it's not stereotypically, for example, Middle Eastern sheikhs, Russian oligarchs. It's not that. A lot of international students are people on bursaries, on financial aid, on scholarships, and LSE helps them with living in London, their studies, language, financial aid, like I said. It's very possible if you know the right channels to apply. But you do have to do your research, and you have to be very stringent with the requirements for documentation, for visas. I believe if you have a visa, you have to attend a certain number of hours per week or your student visa gets revoked. You have to be very well aware of the regulatory flux that can occur.
Organized.
Yes, very organized, very well aware, on top of your documentation, and more important, on top of your attainment at university.
Well, so from your own experience at LSE, have you developed any strategies for analyzing the information like faster?
Yes, I normally read, if I have some time, I will read the beginning 2 sentences and the end 2 sentences of every paragraph. I don't think I've ever read a full text at LSE except some critical text in the entire 3 years, purely because you don't need to. If you're thoroughly versed in the topic area, you can fill in the gaps using your own knowledge. If I have some more time, I will read the synopsis, the introduction, and the conclusion. A good writer will encapsulate and succinctly summarize his entire piece, or their entire piece, in the introduction and the conclusion. If you complement that with your own knowledge in the field, you can sort of understand a whole text purely through the introduction and the conclusion. That's my strategy.
Thank you for sharing it. And as I know, LSE has a really good career services. So what kind of career resources are you using, like for yourself? Or maybe there are any platforms that are useful for finding a job?
So, for example, I believe locally people use Headhunter. So our equivalent in the UK would be Indeed. And obviously LinkedIn. But on LinkedIn, there has to be consistent engagement because recruiters do survey a person's LinkedIn. They will look at the events, at any training you've accomplished, at anything you post on there is essentially good publicity. Also, yes, the LSE Career Service is great. So I've used them numerous times to rewrite my CV. I've also used them for advice on how to apply to jobs. For example, applying to charities. There are certain pathways you can take. You can apply indirectly, you can apply directly, you can apply through sort of connections you have.
Different options.
And they advise you on everything. They're ready. They give you meetings day to day. If I request a meeting within 24 hours, that's almost always possible.
I think that is one of the reasons why like students find job very quickly at LSE, right?
Yes, so I believe that
during their first year.
Yes, exactly. I believe that LSE ranks among the highest for student employment in the first 6 months after graduation.
Really?
Very employable. Yes, more employable than Oxbridge.
If talking about parents, from your perspective, what can Kazakhstani parents do to emotionally prepare their children to study abroad?
There has to be an acclimatization period. It's very important for the first couple of, so the summers before your child fully goes to live and study in the UK. It's very important to maybe send them there, maybe for 2 weeks, one summer, a month the next summer, 2 months the next summer. So somehow to gradually submerge them in the environment and to make sure that it is not a complete system shock the first time that they go and live in the UK. So spending time in the UK is important. Language is obviously another hugely important factor. Language is the medium of integration, essentially. If you do not know the language, you cannot integrate effectively at all. I mean, sign language, you're going to be, hand gestures don't make up for sort of verbal cues. So language and just spending time in the country just to blend in with traditions, social norms. For example, just a very stereotypical one, British people like to queue, sort of naturally formed queues. If you're not very well aware of that or accustomed to that, it's strange for you to see. So that's one example of why you need to spend time in the country, and the language is another one.
But is it true that, I heard that when a person has a weak language level of language, but he goes abroad, in this new environment, he will learn it faster?
Yes, that's very true. One of the most proven ways to upgrade your language proficiency is complete and total sort of immersion in the environment. But that's very much a double-edged sword. So some people who experience that firsthand, they're very lonely their first couple of months because they don't know the language, they cannot communicate with anyone. Their interactions are very limited. So you have to know some language before you go abroad. But I think mastering the language while you're already there is good, but you have to have some basic knowledge to survive in the first place.
Yeah. So what advice you would give to those parents who are afraid of letting their child to study abroad?
I think, first of all, you need to be very realistic. You need to understand that the UK is a safe place. London especially, it's very safe. If you're going to university, it's even safer. And I think parents should console themselves with the fact that if your child does go abroad to the UK, they will have an immeasurably better future. They have more opportunities, more connections, more doors are open to them in general. So if you're worried in the present, console yourself with the fact that the future looks better, a lot better.
There is a popular opinion that higher education is necessary because, according to the statistics, those people who graduated from the university, it is much easier for them to find a job. Is it true?
Yes, it's very true. So even a bachelor's from a university, your undergraduate degree, your bachelor's in science, bachelor of science, bachelor of arts, it simply makes you more employable. You can have all the experience in the world, but if you do not possess relevant documentation to bulwark that experience, employers can't judge you on anything. You at least have to have a piece of paper with a certain degree on it from a certain university. Also, the statistics that you very correctly quoted, they apply more to Russell Group universities in the UK, for example. More prestigious collections of universities benefit exponentially from this. For example, what gets you hired after you finish LSE is the LSE logo on the piece of paper. There's a very popular anecdote in the UK employment market across all sectors. So I'm a recruiter and I have 3 different piles of CVs. One of them is LSE, Oxford, Cambridge. Another one is the other Russell Group universities. And the third pile is all the other universities in the country. These 2 piles go in the bin straight away. No one looks at them. LSE, Oxford, Cambridge, at least have a chance of being considered, of being invited for an interview. It's very important. It formalizes your experience. It gives you some sort of backing, some proof, some justification to how good you are, to how employable you are. It gives something to an employer that they can trust.
Can you tell us more about your experience at the LSE? Maybe it has changed something personal in yourself.
I think at the LSE, I was quite, when I left school, I was quite undisciplined, I believe, quite unorganized. But the fact that at LSE there is so much free time has made me more organized. It sounds a bit inverse, but it's true. Given a large amount of free time, some people may choose to go down the procrastination route. Some people may choose to go down the organization route. So I decided to go down the organization route, and I decided to employ my free time in order to essentially study, hang out with friends, and apply to many of the opportunities that LSE has given me. For example, I used my free time in my second year of university to prepare a massive 50-page application for an opportunity to study abroad. And I successfully received that opportunity. And last year, for example, I spent in Austria on an exchange program.
So can you tell us more about your exchange program?
Yes, of course. So the exchange program, it's still along the guidelines of the Erasmus Plus program, even though the UK has left the EU, but that has changed in name only. So those opportunities are still very much available. They're very much supported. So I went to Vienna, to the Central European University. I had a lovely time there. But if you do go abroad on exchange, you must have certain goals that you want to achieve. For example, one of them, for me personally, was work experience. And I managed to achieve tenure under a professor, a very well-respected professor, and I helped him research literature reports, literature summaries. I helped him research anti-intellectualism and populism in Hungary, in Slovakia, in the Czech Republic, in the US. And so he's now producing a book for Routledge that I would be not co-authored in, but at least there'll be a small acknowledgement to me as his research assistant.
And was it difficult for you to change your environment so quickly, like from England to Austria?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely quite challenging. There's some language restrictions, obviously speaking Austrian. I was very lucky that the university on exchange was taught in English, but it's a whole new sort of social circle.
Yeah.
It's a whole new city. I quite liked Vienna. It's very quiet, unlike London. But yes, it was a challenge, and I used a lot of the resources available in the university, such as their student support team, their housing team, their student center. I used a lot of that in order to be able to cope with the sudden changes.
Nowadays, a lot of people want to study abroad.
Yep.
And every year, more and more people are trying to go abroad, to study in different countries. So what do you think? Is it really necessary to study abroad? Maybe it is much better to just stay in your country and have convenience, all of these conditions that you have right now, or is it worse to go abroad for studying?
I think an emphasis on convenience is the beginning of many people's downfall. If you emphasize convenience and comfort, to a degree, it's very appealing in the short term, maybe even the midterm. But your long term, there is no debate that your long-term prospects will exponentially increase if you go abroad. There'll be a better network abroad, especially if you go to a country that is a hub, an international hub, like the UK, like the US, like Canada. There are myriad opportunities will open, doors will open in many different industries. You go abroad for the network, for the connections, and for the opportunities. That's what going abroad entails, opportunities.
Do you think that in the future, artificial intelligence will make the humanitarian-based fields such as relationships, such as international relations, less relevant?
The human factor will always endure. I believe the human factor will always survive. The fundamental answer to that question is that people always prefer talking to people. I mean, how many times have you been frustrated at a chat bot, at some AI helper on a website, especially in humanitarian subjects? Maybe the research for history will become easier. For example, I use ChatGPT now to find sources. If I'm writing a historical report on an event, I will use ChatGPT to find sources. But I will also go talk to professors, librarians, archivists in person in order to get their opinion.
Yeah.
Go on.
Like artificial intelligence is just a tool for people, right?
Yes, exactly. Artificial intelligence is it's an instrument, it's a tool. There's no doubt that people who can master that tool and use it efficiently will be ahead of the pack. But it will never replace the human factor, especially in diplomacy, in history, in politics. No, it cannot reach a person's empathy. It cannot perform human functions.
When I was deciding on my future profession, I initially chose international relations field, but later I switched to media.
Well, that's very interesting.
And I believe that many students go through multiple stages when they try to find their future
absolutely.
specialization. Yeah. So what advice would you give to students with such difficulties?
Yeah, so based on your own experience, sort of vacillating between certain subjects and fields, it's completely normal. I'd probably even encourage it, actually, because you need to try things. It's very common advice in life in general, but especially in education, you need to sample as many sectors, fields, careers as possible in order to understand where your passion truly lies. I'd honestly urge everyone to take as many summer courses, winter courses, spring, autumn courses as you can. When I led my course in the summer a couple of weeks ago, I told my students from the very beginning that if they come away from this course not wanting to ever touch the subject, even remotely again, that is as much of a win for them as it is if they decide that subject to be their life's passion. Is a subject worth your life's endeavors, your life's time, your life's work? That is what you need to decide. And in order to be able to decide that, you need to sample. I mean, the choices in modern sort of careers are manifold. There's so many of them. And the only way you will ever narrow your interests is by trying things. So I would encourage students to try as many different things, read as many different things, and truly discover where their passion is.
To find themselves.
To find themselves, exactly.
Thank you, Mikhail, for such insightful and inspiring conversation.
Thank you.
I truly believe that it was helpful for all students who want to study abroad in the future, and it will also guide parents and help other people maybe who was interested. And as you know, this is the studio of Bilimde Yel organization.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, what can you wish to our studio?
I wish your studio the tenacity to continue your mission. I fervently believe that education, being informed, having a very global perception of events genuinely determines sort of societal development and its trajectory. The more people are informed, connected, educated, the better for example, the standard of living, the better life everyone will essentially have. Education is key, and I believe that your studio continues this mission and embodies it perfectly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And thank you all for joining us today.